black, you most definitely have went through the whole you talk white thing, which always makes me laugh because a person talking in an intellectual way and being able to voice themselves and have a smooth way of articulating their words doesn't mean they're talking white. And this is no disrespect to white people, but there are plenty of white people who literally can't talk and make no sense. I don't know why when someone does something good, it's seen as a white person, and then when someone does something super ghetto, it's you're acting black, which is stupid to me because there are plenty of black people who don't act ghetto and ratchet and do all the crazy ghetto shit all the time. There are plenty of black people who know how to relax, who are very articulate, very smart, very intelligent, very wise, and know exactly what they're talking about and have an education and even have degrees. So I hate this idea of just, oh, you're talking white because you're good at voicing your opinion and using words. And it's funny because I've gone through this a good amount of times through my life. It's either they'll think you're talking white or they'll think you're gay because you're nice. This is some shit that's weird as fuck. Is the talking white and then the since you're nice and you talk intelligent, you're talking white and you're probably gay. How the fuck are you gay, my nigga, just because you know how to talk good and you're kind? I always thought that was hella weird. And no disrespect to gays, but I've met plenty of gays who were rude as hell. Like real talk. So I don't know how that goes into the category of if you're nice, like really nice, then you're probably gay. Like, nigga, what? Like that shit don't even make sense, bro. I'd be so lost with what people like stereotypes that people create don't even really be making a lot of sense. But if you're a black person and you're highly intelligent, you've probably heard both of these things. If you're a non-problematic black person, you've probably heard these things. And it's always interesting too because people get stuck on stereotypes. They get very obsessed with basically being like, yeah, every black guy's trying, he just sags his pants and tries to act ghetto and tries to act hood. It's very strange that people's mindsets are like this. It's like, have you actually ever went outside? Because I've met plenty of black people that weren't ghetto, and that weren't, some type of wannabe gangster or thug. I've met plenty of them that weren't like that. It's more like you just ain't looking. I think that's really what it is, or you just ain't paying attention to the ones that are smart. Because there are plenty of them that are intelligent, wise, and probably like the same things you do. There are plenty of black dudes who love anime. There are plenty of black dudes who love bands, rock bands like Nirvana, Iron Maiden, freaking who else? Ozzy Osbourne. There are plenty of black people that like rock, who like different types of rock, screamo rock, emo rock, hard rock, metal. I mean, there are black people that like Metallica. I always hate this idea of like there being a stereotype and then people can't like get out of it. And they're just obsessed with the stereotype all the time. It just can become kind of draining, which is why I realized you can't really pay attention to people because people will just sit there and they'll just look at their stereotype. They never look at, like, they'll always be able to see the stereotypes, but they can never look at some shit and be like, oh, there goes a black person right there who's not the stereotypical black person that I create in my head. And it's the thing with me is I don't do that with people. I don't do that unless I 100% think a person is ghetto. And you usually can tell after talking with them for about 5-10 minutes if they really truthfully some ghetto crazy person. And a ghetto person can be black, white, Asian, Mexican. Shoot, they could be Australian. Like, bro, Mexican. I've met plenty of people who weren't black that were hella ghetto and used the word nigga multiple times. So I always get annoyed by this whole stereotype thing. And it's kind of crazy the lack of respect you get for being an intelligent black person. Whether you're a black woman or a black man, like you get this like disrespect just immediately. It's really weird. You talk white. Everybody has heard that. Every black person has heard that if they were intelligent in middle school and high school. And I don't even understand why we've all lived the same life. You get what I'm saying? Like, why does everybody think that? Like everybody immediately that pops out of their head. And they usually think of like a Carlton type of dude. That's usually what people think when they say that stuff. I'm pretty sure. But there are people that are kind of a mix of both or not even in those categories to begin with. There are plenty of black dudes who are more of like a rock star type. And there are plenty of black dudes who can be intelligent but aren't a Carlton type. You know, black dudes don't just fall into two categories, thug or intelligent whitewashed black guy. I don't know why that's like the stereotype, because I've met plenty of black dudes who are either in the middle or were completely not in the loop at all. I've met, shoot, I'm one of them. Nigga, I like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! I love me some freaking anime. I love me some old school cartoons. I love listening to different rock bands. I love listening to rap music, anime music, video game music. I'm into multiple different video games. So I hate when people do that. It's really annoying. It's just like, bro, like, why you always assume that people are just one way? People can be multiple different ways, and that there are multiple different types of people. And that everybody has their own way of viewing the world and their own way of having a personality. Every single person's not the same. And it's like, why are you only paying attention to the ones who act like the version of a certain race that you see in your head? You get what I'm saying? That can get really annoying. This is a little conversation I wanted to have, because I've been thinking about that, and I've seen some videos on that. And it's just like, maybe you're just not really trying to get to know people if you just assume that a black person, when you see him, is just some ghetto person. And don't assume just because they quiet and calm, that doesn't mean you need to put them in the hood black person category. Like, sometimes people can be calm and be cool and not be a hood. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to always be a hood. And then people can be intelligent and smart and not be a Carlton. You get what I'm saying? Because me personally, I'm black, and I've met plenty of black people that were not, hood, or were a combination of things. I knew one black dude. He listened to rock music. He skateboarded, but he also hung out with hood niggas, and he played basketball. He was like he did like multiple things. So he was a skateboarding, video game playing. I think he said he played the guitar or something. And he hung out with the hood dudes, but technically he wasn't a hood dude. And he played basketball too. So, And there are plenty of black dudes who don't live in the hood. And there are plenty of black dudes who live in the hood that are actually cool people. You know what I'm saying? So I'll be getting annoyed by this whole idea of just like, oh, black people just act like this and act like that. I feel like that's more of I can't even really say that it's an age thing, because I've actually talked to some people who were in their 30s and 40s who were extremely immature and really had that mindset of just assuming that a whole race acted the same way, which is freaking wild. Like, it's really stupid for you to think that a whole race acts a certain way. Even if you meet most of the bad ones or whatever, still, you shouldn't just assume, oh yeah, everybody in that race acts like this, or 99% of this race acts like this, because you might be 99% wrong. Shoot, it is what it is. But maybe it's just, I talk to a lot of people. I've met so many different types of white people, black people, Asian people, Mexican people, For example, let's use this as an example. I've met Mexican women who would never date a black dude, only date Mexican dudes. I've met Mexican women who only date black dudes for whatever reason. I've met Mexican women who only date white guys for whatever reason. I've met Mexican women who were like goths, and they were seen, and they liked the alternative black style, the alternative Mexican style, alternative style. I've met black women who were into that. I've met black women that were into anime that didn't like black dudes. I've met black women that were into anime that did like black dudes. I've met black women that were only into freaking black dudes, and that was all they were ever gonna date. I've met black guys who were only into white women. That's it. They won't date nothing else besides white women, but they never talk bad about black women. But then I've also met black dudes who constantly talk bad about black women and date white women. I've met freaking black dudes who were thugs and only dated black women. I've met black dudes who only dated black women, and if any other woman come up to them, they get irritated and disgusted. So it's like, people have to understand that there's so many different varieties of individuals, that having that bias, or that assuming exactly what this person is like just because they're a race, it's pretty childish and immature. It's like some high school shit, because everybody is different. Like, you really cannot decipher how a person's gonna be. And then believing that all of them or most of them act a certain way is actually hella narcissistic because you don't know that. Or you might just happen to live in an area where they all act similar. You know, just people in general. But again, I'm a dude. I live in the Mexican hood, the black hood, and a white neighborhood. I lived in 3 different areas and met multiple different races and multiple different styles of people. You know, when I lived in the white neighborhood, most of the dudes wore skinny jeans, whether they were black, Asian, Mexican, whatever. They wore skinny jeans. They were a little more goofy acting, the ones that lived in the white neighborhood. The ones that lived in the Mexican neighborhood were way more serious because there were black dudes, white dudes, and Mexican dudes who lived in all 3 of these different hoods. The ones that lived in the black neighborhoods, in the Mexican neighborhoods, usually were more hood still. And then the ones that lived in the black neighborhood were extremely hood. You know, so it is what it is. But I still met people that were pretty cool in those areas. Like I said, I think it's more of like people just don't talk to enough people. They don't get outside enough. You know, they don't try to meet, good people. Like most people are not going to walk around and talk to everybody in the room. You know, most people are just going to talk to their own little group. Mostly because a lot of people have a whole bunch of social anxiety for some reason, just going to talk to people. My whole philosophy is if you're hanging out with someone else, right? You shouldn't have no social anxiety. You have another person with you to help you and protect you. So why do you have this like ongoing extreme social anxiety? I don't really understand that, mostly because I don't really get it that much myself. But I think it's more because I got it and then I got over it. And I know most people can't do that. I'm not even expecting people to do that. But when I had that shit because I was like, I had anxiety because I wasn't talking to nobody at all when I was younger. And I had moved to a different school, and that's how I got anxiety. But then I got over that shit when I became an adult because it's just like, you just naturally get over it. Some people. I did. Because you get to that point where you're like, bro, like I'm too damn grown to have anxiety. Like, what the hell? You know, not making fun of anybody who has it. I'm just saying with me, that's what I thought in my head. Like that was the thing that popped into my head. Like, nigga, you are too old to have social anxiety. So I just stopped having it. You know, and people get confused by that too. People can't handle a person who doesn't have social anxiety. They're like, why are you so chill and calm? Like, why are you able to relax and not have any anxiety whatsoever? That like confuses people. You know, they're like, what the hell? They're like, you don't got no anxiety? I'm like, no, not really. You know, every once in a while I'll get like that nervousness when I'm talking to a new person for like half a second, but that shit goes away so quick. Because all it is you just go, you talk to people and you say, what's up? Hey, how you doing? And you actually genuinely get to know them and shit. You know, because when you tell people about yourself and you create a smooth environment, a trusting environment, a calm environment, a talkative environment, a non-judging environment, or a positive judging environment, people usually will talk to you. But I've also realized too is that people are contradictions. So a person will have anxiety, but then also be extremely judgy at the same time. It's actually kind of mind blowing. There are people out there that are judgy but also overly anxious. It's freaking crazy. So they'll be like, man, all those people over there are weirdos. But then at the same time, they're scared. They're like, oh my gosh, those people over there are so scary. But then they'll like clown them at the same time in their head. It's actually kind of mind blowing. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that, man. Just this idea of just, you know, black people getting stereotyped so much. It kind of gets kind of old. And I'm not saying that other people don't get stereotyped. I'm just saying it seems like people always got such a huge opinion on what black folks is doing all the time. Like, we're like, God damn, it ain't even that serious. But yeah, hope you guys have a good night. Peace and blessings. And remember this, if you need a friend, you need somebody to talk to, you can always hit me up. My Instagram and my TikTok, everything is the exact same name. And if you feel anxious, if you have anxiety, you want to work on your self-esteem, just need a listening ear, you can always hit me up. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace and blessings. I hope you guys have a good one. Have a good night.